Okay, that was a long day. First day at Gamescom.
It was a long day, but a good day. It feels like it's all gone really well. Everyone's received it well. People have understood the game.
Tom, before we melt in a single body, how has been your day compared to the fears you had before coming here?
It's actually been really great. You know, it's sort of been sitting down, talking to people. You just tell them what you know, and they seem to like hearing it, so it's all good.
Well, people cannot see it in their homes, but the booth is gigantic. We just love to be next to each other, yeah, so it's comfier that way.
So the idea behind the whole thing is that there is this marquee in England, and he's famous for his annual decadent masked balls that he puts on, these big events, and for mainly his grand casino mansion, the Sexy Brutale. But this year, something is going horribly wrong at the ball, and as opposed to everyone having fun, all the guests across the mansion are being killed by the staff in various different ways. And the final twist is that when it strikes midnight, this whole day at the masked ball begins from noon all over again. So you take on the role of Lafcadio Boone, who's up there, who's an ex-gambling addict turned priest, and you now need to move through the house, spying and eavesdropping and finding out everything that's happening to each individual guest in order to figure out how you can save their life and try and solve the ultimate mystery of why the loop is happening and to stop it from happening.
Charles and I, we've grown up together. We've always been into video games.
I think we just wanted to make our own original contribution in some way. You know, like we love games, we all love games.
Indie spirit.
It's that way. Yeah, it is.
And for a long time we've been talking about, well, what is it, what are the games that we really love and find most exciting? Big on our list was Majora's Mask, Gregory Horror Show, Tulip, which is a really weird Japanese one, and more recently 999.
Fairly obscure old Japanese games. There is quite a few things all mixed together, really. I mean, one of them would be like immersive theatre productions. You know, the plays are put on, but the audience is free to roam around and see them.
We knew the elements that we wanted in the game. The game was going to loop, the game was going to be set in a mansion, the game was going to feature a large cast of characters. We wanted to do something British. Like, there's no point hiding it. Like, we are so British. Oh my God. And the game needed to also explain and justify our central looping mechanic. And the real first challenge was just to find something that unified those elements. And once we had that, we were able to put it to bed. We've got our bedrock in place. We can build the game around this.
We started helping you. All the game was playable as a white box. The system was fully assembled. Like, oh, can we move the door? It's like, no, because everything is tightly connected. So if you move the door, you are going to change this. That is going to happen in 47 minutes, basically on the other side of the mansion. How can you manage that?
Well, I mean, in that case, you just tell people not to move the door. We've always tried to do is tackle the things that scare us the most. We get that working, and we go, okay, we've done this. Now it's pretty solid, and we want to do better animations. We want to do better sound effects. It definitely got better when you guys got involved, that's for sure. It sort of all happened over a very long period of time, and I sort of look at the code base and everything we've done, and it started off from humble origins of just a few characters moving from point to point, but I'm also very proud of it.
Lots of people like the looping time idea, but don't actually think about the ramifications of doing it and how actually turning that into something that anyone can play is just not easy at all. It is super easy to play. It is very accessible to play, but explaining the idea that all these puzzles are happening at the same time and that it's all happening in one day can be kind of complicated to get across. So I was worried that people wouldn't get it, but I think people are getting it.
And then it's like, okay, play it. And the moment they play, you're right. I mean, the controls are so easy. Everything is so simple that there is like, oh no, I get it.
The sound effects is a good example of something we decided would be really cool early on, and we knew why it was cool and we felt why it would be cool. but with things happening that are loud enough and exciting enough that they have an impact on the entire area.
There are sound effects that you can hear no matter where you are in the house.
You start the game and there's a lot of weird noises and weird events.
You hear things or you see things that make absolutely no sense, and then it's only later that it all like comes together.
I have played the game, I mean, all the levels, all the murders. Very, very nasty things happen in this story. I mean, it's really unsettling. But then you are seeing these colorful characters. Mm-hmm. We were digging on the visual style and defining, like, you know, the isometric perspective looks like a homage to the filmation games of the 80s, right? For those of you who are super young, in the 80s we had video games. The perspective it was like, well, let's play with that. Let's try to get something like out of a puppet theater.
It is the style that we've always intended, because it's always meant to be the juxtaposition of the dark content and everything, but with the humorous stuff.
You know, we always wanted humor, not laugh out loud like jokes, but actual humor to be part of it. People are being murdered. It's like if two guys are in a bad situation and one makes a terrible joke, when you do get those moments, like even if they're a rubbish joke, it lifts it just for that moment.
It can be John Cleese or it can be Leslie Nielsen. I mean, it's humor with a straight face. I mean, it's hilarious because it's supposed to be serious, but then it's totally gross, and then everything happens so naturally.
It's a dark game. And I think that is kind of a really necessary element in order for any sort of joke or humor to actually land.
Well, the reason for the name of the game is primarily that my brother is a strange and weird person, so he's also the one who should be answering.
I used to be a journalist, and then I was a writer on games, and like one of the things that is always like really important is to get a headline that grabs people's attention. And it's important for it not to be like whatever the headline equivalent of clickbait is. You have to have the meaning to back it up. You know, it has to mean something. It's the name of the casino. It has been named by the guy who owns the casino. That addiction to gambling gave him the money to fund this, but there's also been ups and downs in his life. He named it Sexy, The Allure of Gambling, and Brutal, because there's always another side to it. You know, we had a good title, and then at the end, you know, like there is meaning to it. There is a reason why it's called that. So
when we had this experience all put together and everything, we sent it out to you for feedback, along with a whole bunch of people to get feedback. At the end of the email, you said this thing about potentially doing it as a co-production. Now, why in the hell would you want to get your, stable and large development studio involved in a game that was called The Sexy Brutal?
I remember when I sent you the feedback. The idea is pretty cool. Who doesn't love Groundhog Day, whatever. The prototype was ugly as hell. It had namers with it. One thing is like, it's a shame. I mean, because this game is fantastic. If you go to a publisher, they are not going to have the imagination to see how it's going to be. At first, it was just, can you let me help you just to define the visual style? Because, again, it was a really, really amazing game. I mean, the story is fantastic. It's mind-blowing. And all the characters, just the names. I mean, who names a guy Lafcadio? I mean, it's an amazing name. We didn't do anything that wasn't already there. Basically, we have shaped the game that was obvious it was going to be. All the time it was there. We just added some beautiful graphics to an amazing concept.